did. Because I know the struggle. I just did it too.
The classic weather report, but nice water line though.
Yeah, well, that's how they
That's
go.
why all the F class guys. Oh, look at the water line. Ooh.
Yeah.
Good one.
Hey, Speedy, what's up?
Not much.
Speedy's in the studio today. We are, we're gonna talk. What are we gonna talk about?
We're gonna talk about Benchrest.
Benchrest. Oh man. So I got Speedy here,
How you doing?
and we got Henry.
What's going on, guys?
Also a first-time Benchrest shooter.
Last
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. So
Both got one match under their belt.
That's right.
yeah, that's what we're gonna talk to Henry and obviously Speedy as well. So here we go. All right, Speedy. Well, what do you want to talk about?
Well, let me get my list over here. Of course, I've got one. What I'd like to start off with first is it's a bit of sad news that happened this week. George Kelby passed away. He's one of the great shooters and contributors to the sport. He passed away the day before yesterday, I believe. We were hoping that he'd be able to make the 50th anniversary of the Super Shoot, but he passed away on the eve of the Super Shoot. So we give our prayers to the family and thank him for all that he's done for the sport. He was he held a Super Shoot for I don't know how many years, and we were there for the 48th, the last one, and we were hoping he'd be here for the next one. But anyways, we'll go on. We love you, George. Love the family. Kelby's continue to contribute to all the sports. Anytime you needed anything from him, if you had a problem, they would take care of it as soon as possible. But anyways, we hate to see George go. Thank you. Now to business. Speedy Gonzalez here with the new precision report.
All right, before we go on, we got Henry here too. So Henry, you also shot a Benchrest match recently.
I did last month, my first one.
How was that?
Man, it was interesting. It's different to go shoot something and see the effect on paper instantly. Whatever it is, whether it's the load, whether it's the gun, whether it's
The wind,
Shooter.
the shooter, exactly. Everything shows on paper drastically. Everything means something. That was probably the biggest takeaway. Everything we did meant something on paper. A little bit different from F class, a little bit different from ELR. But was good. It went good. I was sitting fairly good towards the beginning, and that's another thing. One target, one relay can take you up or take you right out of it too. Because some of these guys just don't miss. They're just consistent.
Well, it's a little bit different than shooting F class because if you do have a bad group, you can bear down and make it up and catch back up to some of the
Absolutely.
leaders. One of the reasons I wanted to do this interview or interrogation, as Erik likes to call them, is that he and I over the years have discussed Benchrest, the way he does load development. I've asked him, I think you probably heard it on the podcast, how do you do your load development without any wind flags? And he tells me he shoots Mirage, and now that he's shot over wind flags, especially with guns that don't have the high BC that the F-class guns do, where you start to really see that aerodynamic jump from the vertical and the horizontal component of a group. I was wondering how he might have felt a little bit different. But what possessed you to go to the match anyways?
Well, Jeff Pinehart, I had him on the podcast. And I had Jim Klein before on.
Right.
And he asked me to go to the name of that shoot that he puts on.
That one.
God dang it.
I can't remember that name either.
Anyway, can't remember the name that shoot that Jim puts on, but it's score and
Right.
group.
Combination of the two.
Yeah. And so he asked me, he had invited me to go there, and I said, man, if I can make it, I'll go. He added me to the waiting list, and when he called me and said, hey, you're in, I literally a week before I had made some plans. I just didn't expect to get in. So long story short, I couldn't go. So when I had Jeff on, he asked me about that match and if I was going to go. I said, no, I had prior commitments. And he said, tag driver.
Yeah.
Thank you, Noah. The tag driver match. And so Jeff asked me about it. I said, no, I can't make it. And he says, he goes, you ought to come, to the hog roast match. And I said, when is that? He goes, it's in like 3 weeks. I go, I'm not ready. I said, I don't even have a gun. I said, I don't even know what I would bring. He goes, just show up. I'll bring everything. And I looked at my calendar, and I was open that weekend and said, all right, I'm there. So I was there.
Okay. Well, you get there, and what did you see different that Jeff handed you that what you compared to shooting? The rest, the gun?
A lot of it was similar. Obviously, shooting off a front rest, rear bag. A lot of that was very similar.
Right. What type of rest were
It was a Farley.
Farley?
But, I mean, a lot of it was similar. My shooting style was the same as when I shoot prone, except I'm on a bench. So I had to figure out a way to sit at the bench, right? So I could be comfortable, because I know consistency is key. So it took me a while to figure out how to sit down and be consistent.
Right. Well, I know you don't shoot free recoil in your F-class guns. How did you approach the bench guns?
I tried it. I actually shot it very similar to the way I do F-class. I mean, I didn't put my shoulder into it, but I mean, this thing hardly recoils.
Right.
So, I mean, I still put my thumb on the side and just work the trigger.
Right.
But there's hardly any recoil. So the main thing was, because of the left port,
Right.
and I'm sitting up, I was picking up my head when I'd be shooting,
Right.
and I'd be picking up my
Staying
head.
down on the gun.
Yeah, and then Andy, he was helping as well.
Shiflet?
Yep.
Yeah.
Andy Shiflet, and he said, hey,
He's like a little Marine DI, isn't he?
he said, hey, you might, you just need to keep your head down. I go, oh, crap, of course, I know that, right? But
Look like a prairie dog.
yeah, but because I was doing Benchrest and something not, there was a lot going on.
Right. Well, you typically shoot a right bolt, right port on your
Right.
F-class gun.
So
What
here
was
I'm
this,
having
right
a
bolt, right port, left eject?
lefty.
Or
No.
right, left.
Yeah, so this is right eject, right port, right bolt, left load. So, it's a dual port.
Right.
So, so I'm having to do that and kind of work through. But then after that, I started kind of working at it, trying to get faster.
Right.
Because it didn't take long before I could realize that speed was going to be the name of the game, because the condition wasn't holding for long. Like, I'd see a condition, that's the good thing about having experience in wind reading. I'm looking at the flags, and I'm like, okay, that's steady, that's steady, that's steady. And I kind of time it. I go, man, I could have, that's a whole minute and a half. I go, if I'm fast, I can get all my shots off in that stuff, So I started kind of looking at the patterns,
Right.
but I wasn't as fast as I hoped I would. Because, being fast is not enough. You have to be fast and precise. Right.
Yeah, Tony Boyer used to say in the old days, if you were to ever attend one of his classes, that you should be able to shoot a 5-shot group within 20 seconds. 5 well-placed shots in 20 seconds.
Well, and that's what I noticed with you doing it, because I literally shot next to you. I didn't know what to expect. I'll tell you this: I didn't even know the score. I didn't know that I could go back down to the side. I didn't know really much of it. You just said, like, get this gun, bring everything there. You just kind of trial by fire, right? So when I got there's times that you were done in, within half a minute, boom, you were done. And I was like 2 shots in. I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work.
I don't know why they call me Speedy.
Well,
Exactly.
So that's and one thing that Andy said to me, he goes, 2 things that are very important in Benchrest: patience and speed. He said, you have to be patient. Don't just jump in and shoot a bad condition. But once you do, you need to have the speed to take advantage of that condition.
Yeah, well, I've had people ask me, why did you wait so long? I said, well, I can screw this up just as good the last 30 seconds as I can the first 30 seconds. So if the conditions aren't right, I'll wait it out,
Yeah, so that's what I did. I was right off the bat, obviously on practice day, we tested loads. And practice day is when Jeff kind of gave me the full rundown of how to clean the rifle, how to load for it, how to do everything. By the way, if any of you want to go check that out, it's on the members forum. There's a link in the description. And on that email that you guys got, if you got an email, that those links take you to that video where Jeff is explaining all of that to me. So if you're not a member, become a member. It's worth the price of admission. This stuff is full of, I mean, Jeff just walked me through how he cleans his rifle,
Right.
how he loads the rifle. We actually worked on loads on practice day. We tested different loads.
In the cleaning?
Do what?
CLR.
No. So we tested different loads on practice day. We tested them different times of the day. And, of course, every time we'd shoot, Jeff would go back to his trailer, his RV, and then
Right.
we'd discuss. He'd tell me, you know, this is what you're looking at. This is what I would do. And we would go and test again later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2 hours later. We're doing every 2 hours and testing different
Right.
loads. But that was kind of the but it was hot that day, and that night storm rolled in, and then it was rainy.
Everything you did on Friday had to be reevaluated Saturday morning.
Yeah, and that's something that Jeff told me. He says, "Listen, this is what we still have a baseline."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Tomorrow, because of the weather change, you can almost throw all this out the window, but we still have data points, and we can use that to build from there based on the weather that's coming in."
Right.
So the next day, there was no practice targets. Apparently, sometimes you guys have practice targets, like a practice match.
Well, we have a warm-up match.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it's still practice,
Yeah.
right? Warm up, practice,
Right.
whatever. The point is, this match, there was none of that. The first one counted.
Mm-hmm.
And
Throw it right to the dogs.
yeah, so Jeff said, we're just going to have to wing it. I mean, everybody's having to do that. He says, and I said, can I bring 2 loads to the line? He goes, yeah, bring 2 loads, shoot them at the practice target or the sighting target, and whichever one you like best.
Yeah, in lieu of a practice match or a warm-up match, what they do, the first match at each yardage is give you a 10-minute warm-up.
Well, they gave us 10 minutes versus 7, so we had an additional 3 minutes. So that was enough time for me to shoot the 2 different loads at the sighting target, and I just decided which one to go with, and I sent it. I looked at the flags, make sure they were consistent, and I went
So
for
y'all
it.
started off with light varmint.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see how you started off on that first match.
And what was the difference between your 2 loads? What was?
You have to become a member, Henry.
I am. I got the email.
No, the difference was
So,
here. We're gonna
here we
talk
go.
about that. Hang on. There it is.
So started off pretty good, 201. I don't know if that was statistically significant. No, I'm just playing hardy bad guy. So you've got several shots on here. You want to explain?
So the very first one, the one in the center there,
Uh-huh.
at the bottom, that shot is the Fowler.
Okay.
It looks like I brought 3 loads.
So
I shot the first load at the top left target.
okay.
That was the first load.
And that's 2 or 3 shots.
2.
Okay.
Uh,
So you probably already learned that if the first 2 shots don't go together, you might as well quit playing with that one.
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
it's not going to get any smaller. Because, one thing I realized about Benchrest, they make you shoot 5, but they only measure the worst 2.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, where was... Now, usually we evaluate that first shot. So this was your sighter?
Yeah,
your
that
fouling
was
shot?
fouling shot.
Yeah, I said a lot of times we'll evaluate that one. And, that one looks pretty dang big right there.
Yeah. And that's one thing that they were saying, like Andy was in a spotting scope behind me, and he was saying, well, he goes, yeah, that first hole was pretty
Yeah,
big.
if you look at this, your first fouling shot compared to these 2 right here, this is almost as big as those 2 right there when you just look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they were telling me that when the gun is really in tune,
Yeah.
that 243 hole will measure somewhere around in the 230s.
It looked like a 22 caliber hole.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
looks
small.
tiny. So
So this was your first one. You decided not to go with that one.
yeah, and then I tried the second one, and it's the
that
one
this
on
one?
no, it's the one on the bottom.
This one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but then I shot the third one, and it was a little bit tighter, right? But then I started looking at them, and I go, okay, well, I didn't look at the flags on the second group. I go, was
This
that the
one right
flag
here?
or is that the load? I mean, because it looks flat.
Yeah.
And then the third one, that's when I go, oh, idiot, look at the flags again. And then I paid attention to the flags, and they went together. And I go, well, they're both flat. You know, the first one has vertical.
Yeah.
The next two were flat. And I go, perhaps I didn't look at the flags, the first one. Still, I wasn't going to shoot it, but it was still a data point for me because I go, hey, what did I not do?
Right.
I didn't look at the flag. So it's possible that load is amazing if I had shot in good conditions. But given the data that I had, I went with the third load.
Where are you aiming?
I was aiming at the very top, at the right there.
Okay. So your gun's basically impacting where you're
almost
aiming.
point of aim.
Right.
Which it wasn't the day before.
Yeah.
Okay, which that screwed me up a little bit. But I didn't want to click the scope or anything because I'm like, I'm just going to go for it, So then I went straight up, waited for the condition to come in, and then I was aiming dead center. And that's the group that I shot, 5 shots. That's a 201.
That's usually a good way to start off. It doesn't really move you up and it doesn't really move you down. That's just a good starting group to get the kind of jitters out of your system right there.
Yeah. So started with a 201. Not bad. I was pleasantly happy, but hang on before you go into the next one. Then after that, I clicked the scope down and go back to the sighter.
Was that it?
Yeah, I clicked the scope down because I didn't want point of impact. So before I finished that, I had already shot my record group. I went back to the sighter target, and then I clicked the scope down, and I shot 2 shots to make sure the next go around I was in point of impact.
Yeah.
Because that was really screwing me up. So that's what I did, and after that I realized I had clicked it too far down, so I clicked it up halfway. I think I came down half a minute, and then I just came up a quarter, and I left it alone. So then we go to the second target, and I think I brought the same load for that one.
Yeah,
I tested loads again on
So
that.
I'm assuming this is always your first fouling shot. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, at the center,
Yeah.
that's always my fouling shot.
Yeah. You can whatever load you had here is different than the one you had here because you can look at those 2 holes right there.
Yeah.
I mean, when you start talking about evaluating your groups and looking at your hole size, I mean, just look at those 2. There's a difference right there.
Yeah. So, and then I tested loads again. I started with the load that I had brought. It's the first one.
Mm-hmm. Here?
That one. Yep. And then I went up 1/10 of a grain. Right there. That's 2 shots. And then I went up another 1/10.
That's
Yeah. And I go, well, all right, I'm going to shoot the one that dotted up. And then I went up, waited for the condition to settle in, slide it down, Speedy, so we can see it there. And I shot that. I just waited for the condition to be consistent, and I shot it. Now, Andy is looking back there with a spotting scope, and he says, of course, I'm pretty happy with that group. And he goes, it's kind of a big one. I'm like, what?
They're all touching. What are you talking about?
And he says, well, he goes, see how that bullet on the right kind of dipped down? No, the one on the left. See, he goes, see how everything was trending like horizontal, like aerodynamic jump? He goes,
Right.
that's what you're supposed to have. He goes, but see that one shot that kind of went low? He goes, that's not good. Something's going on with that load. He goes, I think that load's getting too hot. I think he said it was getting too hot. And I said, well, dude, I just shot 2 groups that are...
Low 2.
Because see, I went up 1/10 on this one.
Right.
Compared to the previous one. He goes, I think this is too hot. I think you need to back it off to the first one. I go, no, this looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think if you go back to Jack Neary's interview when he's talking about the groups, and he's talking about shooting groups in the ones, and everybody's happy with that. When you actually should be shooting the low ones or maybe even zeros,
But let me ask you this. That was probably my biggest question out of there. So how much of that is going to be your setup on it,
right? Or what was it, the flag that you just slightly, or the aerodynamic jump, or was it the, the load? Because there's so many factors that contribute to this group. I hear everybody say it's like, well, it's load. I got to go down a tenth or up a tenth. But how much was that? Like maybe the back, or maybe the flag, or maybe your shoulder, or maybe, you know what I mean?
Yep. Well, I mean, when you look at the groups, I'm assuming that you shot a different condition on your first match than you did on your second match.
Yeah, it was raining.
Right.
So the whole day was different.
Right.
Like it would rain, and you know how I told you I look at mirage. There was none
no mirage.
the whole time. There was none.
Believe the flags.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole time I was like, well, there's no mirage here. I got to read these flags. I got to look at them.
Right.
And I would try to shoot on them. But see, the thing about it is once I start, I just focus on shooting because I was pretty slow. Everybody's like, "Bap."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to, and so I was focusing on shooting what I'm going to call fast, but I wasn't fast by their standards, but I was fast by my standards. So I was focusing on that. And, I kind of just take a quick glance at the flags, but I wasn't like micro looking at them like Jeff said, like I'd be done, and Andy said, "Oh, that ribbon kicked up on the last one, or whatever," and I'm like,
There's always a predominant part of the range that until you determine what that is, you're gonna kind of struggle with it.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was doing, but I was pretty happy. But Andy was telling me, "Hey, well, see that shot right there? It kind of leaked down on it should have went up." Mm-hmm. He goes, and if the wind had died down, it should have followed.
Right.
But it didn't. He goes, I think the load is too hot. And of course, I'm like, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that can also be. I've seen a lot of people do that when they anticipate a shot and pull the trigger a little bit too quick. These guns are so light, it's real easy to jerk on that trigger, anticipate that shot, and drop it out the bottom.
I don't do that, Speedy.
Neither do I.
Yeah, neither does anyone. No, but the point is, this is what he looked at, right?
Right.
And that was his evaluation, and I said, okay. So let's look at the next one.
The next one again, you can see that your cider is still nowhere as big as that first one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still a big, huge one. Yeah, it looks like they're getting smaller as you're going along. And your group on this target reflects it as well. Did you try 2 different loads on this one?
Yeah.
Based on what Andy said?
Yeah, that's what I kept doing.
So you were just, at this point, you're just changing powder? You're not adjusting your bullet seam depth?
Nothing.
Or
Only
your
powder. No
neck
tuner,
tension?
nothing.
We still call it neck tension.
No, we were just strictly powder.
Yep.
So
And typically, that's all I do on my guns. With the exception of after I've shot so many matches, I'll typically adjust my bushing size a 1/2 thousandths. I don't know if y'all went over that.
no, we didn't do any of that.
Okay.
So anyway, go to the third target.
Okay. Get back down here.
And what's the size on that thing?
195.
195. So it's still in the 2s, right? So I'm at about a flat 2 right now, my ag.
Yep.
But again, Andy goes, see, there's that shot again, that low shot.
Yep.
And he goes, I think you need to go the other
What shot was that? You remember?
It's like 3 or 4.
Okay.
It wasn't the 5th one.
Okay.
But he goes, see, there's that shot again. That shot that showed up on the previous group, there it is again. And I go, okay, all right, fine. So I wish I had kept better notes because this is all by memory. But I know I made a change after that one because I go, okay. Because I didn't change from the previous one.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's pretty good.
So you had 2 groups here. Was this the same load or was that?
No, that was 2 different loads.
Okay.
And the lower one, I went even hotter to see what had happened. And
Yeah.
it started blowing up. So that was the confirmation that Andy was right. Right?
Yeah, so you say you need to start going down a little bit or otherwise you are going to blow up.
Yeah. So,
So number 4, almost all aerodynamic jump there.
all right, scoot it down so we can see it. Yeah. So that one, okay. I know what happened. I remember now. He told me to change the load, and I go, I don't, I'm like, I don't think so. I think I may have pulled it. That's what I kept saying. He goes, the first target maybe, but 2 in a row, you have the same target. that same bullet going low. I think that's a problem. And I go, nah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
And look at what I did here.
This is still my first match.
Yeah.
So,
The first
yeah.
time professional.
Yeah.
So did you not follow your gun here?
I did. And I shot, because I was bringing the same load. So what I was doing, I was bringing leftovers from the very first match.
Yeah.
The ammo that was
fowler?
left over, I was just using as fowlers.
Yeah.
And those were 2 of the same load. And because then I started shooting 2 fowlers, because I'm thinking, well, maybe one's not enough.
Yeah.
And I started shooting 2, and they went, and that was the lighter load that I started with in the morning, and I shot 2 because Andy kept saying go lighter, and I'm like, I think I'm fine. Well, I shot 2 of the light ones, and I go, holy crap, he's been right this whole time. And of course, that's after I shot that big massive group.
Yeah.
So this is what I did on the cider group. I think that's 3 shots, and then I went up and with a hotter load on top and move it down, Speedy, so we can see it. Yeah. And then I go up there and,
Well, there again, but that's just pure aerodynamic genetics. That's one thing.
But there's that shot again on the left.
Yeah.
Not trending. Pull it down. What size is that?
190.
Yeah. So it's,
That's
I mean,
the
it's still
smallest
shooting.
group of the day so far.
Still shooting flat 2s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so I'm not changing much. So nothing's changing. Like but see, I'm sitting there at 0.2. I'm like.
And how fast was it taking you to shoot those 5s? Like.
It was taking
Roughly.
me, I don't know. I really don't know. A minute and a half? I don't know.
So once you picked a condition, you shot
Yeah,
all
I
5.
would just shoot without
What,
stopping.
did you ever? Because it happened to me to where I shot like 3, and then my condition moved. So I
yeah,
stopped.
We're gonna get into that.
So I stopped, and I was like, I'm gonna wait. And I was with you. There was ones that I literally waited to the last 30 seconds, and then just shot my last 2.
Oh, we're gonna get into that. That came in. That happened at 200.
So after this one, did we go back to our light load, or what did we do?
I think I lowered it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, there's the proof is in the pudding.
So we made our gun more wind sensitive.
Well, all right, this
Or
one.
you just missed a condition.
No, this one I missed the condition.
Okay.
Okay,
Because
because
you had a little,
what I did,
yeah, a nice little.
those are the first 4. Okay,
Yeah, you had a,
and I mean that's
about a 1.
a 1.
10.
Yeah, it's a flat. It's
Maybe
it's
even
a low 1.
I've been close to 0, but
Yeah, so I had those 4.
yeah,
And then I see the flags twitching, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're all going to the same hole. Just shoot it.
flags don't matter.
Don't stop. Well, because I'm thinking those first 4 done went through the scope. They looked like a single hole. The hole just kept getting a little bit
Yeah.
darker every time I shot. And I go, don't stop. You're gonna screw it up if you stop, because I don't know where to jump back in, right? Especially with the freaking hole like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just shot the last shot and I shot it and it went over there, and I look back at Andy, he's shaking his head. He goes, that flag turned on you. I go, I didn't think it was gonna freaking matter.
Yeah.
So
But it's
that
funny
was
when you look
so,
at how
so that was
small-
the biggest group.
When you look at how small that shot is, it's there compared to this first sighter right here. I mean, look at that. It's like half the size.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
they're talking about when you start seeing that thing look like a 22 caliber, you know?
Yeah. So
I mean, the first 4 reflect that that thing was,
yeah, it was humming. So that was the last shot of the light gun aggregate, which still not too
well,
bad.
that's just still giving you, what, a 2.3, 2.4 ag or something?
I think I got I think it was like a 240 or 240 ag.
Did I say that? 2.3, 2.4? Could be.
Yeah, 2.3. Yeah, so it was like a 2.4.
But that's not bad. First time out.
First time out. So of course we went.
So you shot heavy varmint then.
Took a break, and then we started with a heavy varmint.
But you shot the same gun.
Same gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was undergunned.
So what did the conditions change between?
Well, yes, it just everything kept like it was raining. Sometimes I come out, it's raining.
Yeah.
Sometimes I come out, it's just windy. Like it kept getting windier as the day went on.
yeah.
When the rain quit.
So
the wind-
after this, you and Jeff probably went and had a little heart to heart.
Yeah. Well, Jeff looked at it. And, you know, actually, Andy was the one doing most of the helping because Jeff was talking. So we were on alternate relays. So he was on 1, I was on 2. So when he was shooting, I was loading. And when I was shooting, he was loading. So we were just passing each other back and forth. He just asked me, how'd it go? I'm like, oh, pretty good. And, you know, and Andy was the one. Andy was cleaning my rifle for me. Man, Andy, thank you. That was awesome.
He's a good guy.
He's like, you know, you're not going to have enough time, especially being new to this. This goes fast. And it sure does. It sure does. So anyway, that's how that went. So I was pretty happy. I think I was like 11th or 12th overall even after the big group.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, I was there to just shoot and have fun. But after that last one, I go, I could have been like top 5. Because trust me, I did the math after that. I go, oh my God, if I had just held it in, you know, just a low once or even a flat 2, I would have jumped up like 5 or 6 spots, you know. So that's when it really started to kick in and go, okay, let's get serious about this.
We survived the light varmint, our first outing.
Yeah.
For record.
Yep.
We go to heavy varmint.
Yep.
So a lot of times if you got a good heavy varmint and the conditions are pretty good, this is where you have an edge over the other shooters, you know. But in bad conditions, you know, heavy varmint really doesn't help that much, in my opinion. That's why I shoot mostly light guns. So what do we do when we went to the heavy varmint? We can say we're going to stick with the same.
Andy, so we had a conversation, and Andy says, all right, either you missed the wind call. He goes, but that had to be a really big wind call for that shot to go that far in.
Yeah.
He goes, that's a lot. He goes, and I didn't see that much out there. He goes, when they go into the wind, that's an indication that the load is getting too hot. Mm-hmm. He goes, I think you're still too hot. And I go, and he goes, but you know, he was just helping me. Right. And it was still my decision at the end of the day. And I go, man, I don't know. Those first 4 were tiny. Like, I think I'm going to keep that load.
Yeah, were you visiting with Andy and Jeff and trying
Jeff was, like I said, Jeff and I ate lunch together.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, but it was mainly, because I didn't have the targets at the time.
Right.
I'm just telling him what happened. You know, and Andy watched through the spotting scope, but the targets we didn't have available. But Andy was saying, he goes, I think that's an indication that the load's too hot when the one shot goes into the wind.
Yeah.
He goes, I know the others were tiny.
You can have your scope, too, set in ahead or behind the conditions, too, you know.
So the point is, I decided to keep the same load.
Okay.
And here we go.
Next one, heavy varmint.
So I kept the same load.
So are we doing a load checking here? Or
I did 3 different loads. And the first one was a lighter load. And you can see how that went. But I only had 3 shots. I think I put 3 in there. And then I tried another load, and then what I brought. The last one, the bottom, that's what I actually brought to the line. And that's all I had. That was the previous.
This one down here?
Yeah. But that's all I brought because I was like, it went through the same hole, even though Andy said, I think it's getting too hot. So slide the target down so they can see the group I shot.
So. Well, you got a little vertical, a little horizontal.
I got a little bit of everything. And of course,
again, if you remember what Jack Neri said when he was talking about group shapes, he said the diagonal is your worst group involved.
Yeah.
And that's it right there.
Yeah. So, after
what do you call that? The splat?
After, and that's where I'm like, okay, Andy was right. Like, that load was too hot. Because, like I said, at the ciders, I tested lighter load, and the lighter load was freaking humming. Yeah. So I said, okay, time to listen and drop it. Okay, this is going to sound ridiculous to most people here, but I dropped it a full 1/10 of a grain.
Ooh.
That's what I mean.
Usually when things aren't going right for me, I drop it at full grain.
Well,
that's what Tony Boy always used to say. Same with Pat McMillan. He'd say, when things aren't going right, you need to make a major change. There's something you'll see is right or wrong.
The thing about it is this wasn't majorly bad.
Yeah.
It was, but that group was big.
Yeah, that was majorly bad. That's like shooting 2 of these others.
Exactly. So I was like, all right. So then, because I have
190 and 190 is
okay, Speedy. Point taken. So I was like, all right, let's go and drop it a tenth of a grain, which is what I shot in the cider target, which looked pretty darn good.
So this condition you're shooting,
It's from the right.
It was at the majority of the condition.
Yeah.
The rest of the,
Yeah, but so I was like, all right, because see, if you look at on the left target, the first one on the cider, that one was. So what I did is I brought a tenth of a grain lower,
Yeah.
half a tenth lower, and then the low that I shot.
so when you're talking half tenth lower, what kind of scale are you throwing on?
We're throwing on a
Auto trickler?
yeah, and it was a super trickler with a FX 120.
Okay. The super tricklers, the coffee maker?
Yeah, the coffee maker.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, it was in my head. I'm like, that ain't gonna matter.
Were y'all loading in like a loading barn, or what were y'all
No,
loading?
no, in his RV.
Okay.
He's got his RV set up, and it's all air conditioned and everything, so it's all temperature controlled.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're in the wind with that super trickler, that FX 120i, it just, you try, if you can get it to stay within a half a grain, you're lucky.
Yeah, so that's what we did, and so anyway, I went back and I dropped it a full tenth of a grain. Now keep in mind this is a 6 ppc, and I think I was shooting like 62 grain bullet. I was shooting
65s?
Jeff's bullets, 62, 67, some in the 60 grain range. And they, you know, we were loading 30.5 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So 1/10 of a grain is quite a bit in such a small case.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
are you using his Grendel brass?
Yes. Yeah. He brought everything. So we were shooting 6.5 Grendel brass, bit of Ori N133 powder, and we were using his bullets.
Right.
So I drop
Shooting
it.
federal primers or CCIs?
I'm trying to think. It had to be CCI. No, which one has the big box? Federals. It had to be
Federals, yeah.
Federals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put 1,000 primers in that one little box.
Yeah. So, yeah, Federal has the big box, right?
Right,
The big
yeah.
100. That's what we had. So that's, I mean, this thing was, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm going to drop the charge. So I dropped it a 1/10 of a grain, and this is what happened.
So number 2. Oh, that's number 4. There's number 2. Look at number 2. 158. That's pretty good recovery.
Yeah. And I'm, this is a bittersweet thing, right? Because I'm like, I could have been shooting like this whole time, right?
Yeah.
If I just, and that's the thing, right? I don't know what. Number one, I'm like, I'm gonna be honest. Number one, I'm going, there's no way that's gonna matter. Like a 1/10 of a grain. There's no way, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that shot pretty good. I'm just gonna stay with that because you know in F class we shoot the same load for a whole week,
Right.
and I'm like, 1/10 of a grain ain't gonna matter. Boy, was I wrong. Because the minute I
percentage wise to the PPC compared to the, I'll just say the 6.5.
yeah, but
PRC.
even if you shoot a 6BR,
Yeah.
it's 30 grains, and you still don't change the load in F class. It's the same load.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I finally, but again, we're not trying to shoot zeros with a 6BR.
Right.
You know?
Well, so I say when you're shooting for score, if you put your first shot here and your first shot there, they're both 10s. Oop.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Let me go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say if you put your first shot here at 9 o'clock and your second shot here at 3 o'clock, you're happy. They're both 10s. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. But
But that's a half-inch group in Benchrest.
yeah, yeah.
So that's how wide that bull is, that 1/2 inch.
Yeah, so, you know, I finally listened to Andy, and I dropped the charge, and boom, dotted up. I mean, and again, that was super easy. Like, I didn't have to work for that.
Yeah, once the guns start working for you, you know, it's all you have to do is guide them.
Yeah. I mean, that was stupid simple. I'm like, oh, well, shit, I can do this all day with the right load and the right gun. Now, another data point here is Jeff brought me a really good rifle.
Yeah.
You know, that rifle was, if I fed it the right stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that thing was like on practice day. I shot 2 zeros. I shot an 063, and then the other one we forgot to pull the target down. But it looked no bigger than the first one.
Right.
So that rifle shot 2 zero groups back to back.
Jeff likes to shoot Krieger barrels, if I remember correctly. We shoot a 13.5.
I don't know, but I know it was a Krieger.
Yeah.
He said it was a Krieger barrel. It told on that video that I posted on the forum. It's all we go through everything, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I know it was a Krieger for sure.
Right. I know he's a big Krieger fan. So, number 3. Here you go again.
Hold on. Somebody has a question here. It says, which year and month 133 were you loading, Eric? Dude, I have zero idea. I just know it was 133. I didn't realize it mattered that much.
Oh, to those guys.
Yeah,
they'll-
there's difference between the years and the months. And
What were you shooting, Henry?
I mean, like 2-month-old Powder Valley special. Yeah, but like Speedy will say like, because yours is like 14 or 13 or something.
No,
You said
I'm shooting 2019.
19,
Yeah.
which was different from your earlier stuff. That
I
was
shot
like
2018. Before that, I shot all T powder. So
right.
I just started shooting 133 because dealing with customers, me telling my loads of T meant nothing to them. So
Right.
I put my T on the shelf and started shooting 133 so I could talk intelligently to the customers as to what I'm doing.
There you go. So,
Otherwise, I'd be shooting T. It's just a lot easier to shoot.
all right, tell us about T powder.
Well, T powder was the original powder manufactured for the M16 rifle, the Stoner, and it was manufactured by General Dynamics there in Florida. And there was 2 different versions of it. There was the and its real IMR number is 8208, and there was an 8208 which they shot in the tracer ammo, and there's an 8208S that had a scrubber in it that would burn out whatever the tracer ammo left in the barrels, and that was the better of the 2. It was a little bit hotter burning, but the velocities didn't seem to change between that and the standard 8208, but the performance was completely different. So I still have like 56 8-pound jug of that stuff.
So what you're saying is, if I start shooting,
Not if, but
Benchrest.
when, right?
when I start shooting Benchrest,
There you go.
So you can whip my ass? Hell no.
Yeah.
I've still got 2 44-pound jugs of the LT32 that Accurate came up with, which I had sent them, I think, 6 8-pound jugs so they could judge the difference in their powder and the original stuff.
Okay, if that T powder is so good, how come nobody shoots it anymore? Is it not available?
Yeah, it's unobtainium. I guarantee if Tony Boer had T powder, he never would have shot any of the 133. It was just that good.
Well, I appreciate.
And the reason
I appreciate the fact that you're
going
going to share some of that with me.
I'll tell you the honest truth, in my opinion. Now that I've shot the 133, I think the real reason the T powder shot as well as it did is that when we were throwing through the old Jones and Culver powder measures, that stuff went through there almost like a ball powder. And I think our loads were more consistent with that than you get out trying to throw 133 out of a measure. That's my opinion.
All right, we got a question here. It says, how do you know when to change powder charge versus sitting depth versus neck tension?
That was going to be my question to you.
Well, I said typically, this is my case. I don't know about the other shooters. In my case, I'll start out with the adjusting the powder, similar to what you did. I won't adjust my bullet seating depth or my neck tension. I have noticed with my gold box Lapua, a 220 Russian brass, that when I'm shooting, we don't anneal. You didn't anneal either, did you?
Nope, no kneeling.
Yeah. How did you shoot so good? How did you shoot a little group?
I
like
didn't.
that
I didn't
without
shoot
annealing?
good. Look at some of those groups.
Well,
you were
there's some
giving me.
biggie.
You were just giving me crap about
But,
them. If I had been annealing,
There you go.
So what we do in lieu of annealing, or what I do in lieu of annealing, I know that after the 5th or 6th firing of my brass, that brass starts to work harder, and when I size it, it springs right back to almost the size it was when it came out of the gun. So in order for me to maintain my neck tension or grip or whatever you want to call it, that neck tension is kind of out of vogue right now to use.
I use neck tension.
yeah.
I still use neck tension.
So do I. But so what I do typically with my brass, that particular lot, I've got still like 6 cases of it. That's 2,000 rounds in a case. I'll be shooting that for a while. I have to adjust my neck tension by 1,000. So the bushings that we have are made of carbide. They used to be able to be purchased in 0.5 increments. So Short Action Customs is going to start making 0.5 bushings. So you may want to do the same thing with yours. I've noticed even with the amp annealer that if you take an indicating micrometer and size your brass when it's new and anneal it, and after about 4 or 5 firings, that the indicating micrometer will spring back more than it will when it was new. So it's not doing exactly the full job that it was like when it's new.
Well, so you guys don't use expanding mandrels.
No.
That's
But
if
I
I
mean,
want.
I'm
That's
gonna
how
say
I manage. Well, that's
even-
how I manage neck
I'm
tension.
gonna say even with an expander mandrel, you're gonna see some difference.
Yeah, but I mean that's how I manage neck tension. I just
But I mean, with that indicating micrometer, since it's spring loaded, you can see that thing shrink and tense or not. Because even with the amp annealer, and if you've got the what's the little seating deal called,
The Empress.
the amp press, you still see variations in that thing from case to case to case to case. I'll bet you some of that is that difference that's starting to take place. So let's just say if you took the same 10 pieces of brass, and you went out and shot them, and came back and annealed them, and then shot them and annealed them, would you see that graph start to change over a period of time?
yeah, they change. But
Why is that if it's returning to the same?
well, it's not. It's not. I mean, it's not returning to the exact same place. You're just trying to.
So let's just say that
Maintain it
I'm
as
playing
close to
devil's
the-
advocate
All right,
here.
go ahead.
Let's just say that with either just plain bushings like I'm using or your expander mandrel, let's just say that if you're trying to maintain that same grip on that bullet, that after 5 firings, let's say that brass is expanding more away from that mandrel, so you're not getting the same grip on that bullet as you did when it was new.
Well, and I got a question about that. So I actually measured spring back. Or I try to at least, right?
You have an indicator, Mike?
With pins.
Oh.
Right, with like Doltronic pins. And I saw that with a bushing, I was getting on a 300 WSM, I was getting about 0.7 to 0.8 thou spring back. Are you saying, Eric, with a mandrel, you get less than that 0.7 to 0.8?
So what I found, the thing I like mandrels is, for example, you run a mandrel in there once, your neck tension is still too tight. You run the same mandrel in there again, and it'll listen it.
So you work hard in the brass then.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still springing back out, right? So instead of people go, well, why don't you make bushings? And well, run the mandrel twice. It does the same thing as having to buy another bushing and change it out and all that. So in my system, I run 2 mandrels because I found through testing that was the most consistent that I could get.
Right.
Even if I change the neck tension, the bushing size, and use the same mandrel, running a mandrel once wasn't as consistent as running a mandrel twice. Now, they're going to say, well, you have to move the brass enough for it to hold. No. If you run the same mandrel twice, it makes things more consistent.
I'll say
So
that's
right now, sorry to interrupt, but my preferred method right now is take a loaded round, subtract 4 thousandths, and that's my bushing size. And then my mandrel, I like to go 2 thousandths under bullet diameter, or you can go 1.5 thousandths. That's what we have, 2 thousandths under or 1.5 under.
Right.
And you run the 2,000. You have the bushing that's 4 thousandths under loaded neck diameter. You run a mandrel that's 2 thousandths under twice, and you're gonna get consistency and that's it. you don't have to do anything else.
Right. Well, that's
Like,
what I'm saying. That
and so people always ask, well, how come you don't make all these other bushings, all these because you don't need that.
Right.
I can make it, but all I'm doing is giving you more
Yes,
trouble that you
and-
just don't even
and
know
you're-
about.
You and I are almost saying exactly the same thing. Half thousands is what's happening, basically,
Yeah.
And so, but you're agreeing that something does happen.
Oh, I know. Yes.
And so I think
Well,
a lot of shooters who aren't
also-
paying attention to that.
Also, with shoulder bump, why do you think I made a die that you can adjust the shoulder bump
Right.
by sim? Because the same thing happens with when your brass gets older. Even you're annealing it, you have the die set at the exact same setting. It's not going to bump the same.
Okay. Now speaking of shoulder
So-
bump,
so that's
while
why-
you were in competition here,
Hold up,
and you
hold
were
up,
kneeling.
hold up. So that's why I made that micrometer die so that I can easily bump more. Because, I have brass that's not on the same cycles. So I'd have one brass and, I had to have it at one setting. And then this other one, I'm loosening the stupid ring and all that. And I go, so I made that micrometer shoulder bump die.
Right.
I've had it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this is dumb. The conventional dies that everybody sells are just so hard to adjust. So I made that micrometer die 10 years ago. Been using it for 10 years.
Right.
Finally,
My press, when I size, I'll set it to the minimum clearance because, we load and we go shoot. So that shoulder doesn't grow as much as it does for you when you're reloading for a match 2 months from now, So, but my press is designed the same way. I can move my die in 1/10 of a thousandth at a time.
yeah.
And I just take one screw out, move it to the next notch, and put that screw back in, and I've gained just 1/10.
Yeah. So that's why I have that micrometer die. Because I found out a long time ago that shoulder bump, as the brass ages, it changes, even though I'm annealing and doing all that stuff, right? So that's kind of where that came from.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to tell some of the listeners and the viewers is that they need to pay a lot more attention to their reloading if they want consistency. So going back to my question, while you were shooting there using Jeff's gun and you're not annealing the brass, did you notice that your brass was getting tighter as the day went by? Or?
So Jeff has, we're using 100 pieces of brass.
Right.
So we only fired them really once, So
So I never had a chance to.
we never had to worry about that. But Jeff, he did, when he was helping me set up the whole deal, he checked the brass
Right.
and he checked every single piece of brass in that rifle to make sure I had no issues. And he said, because that's a common knowledge for us that shoulder bump changes as the brass ages, right? And he's like, no, everything's good. The die's good. Just go.
And that's one thing I learned, not to interrupt, but when we set up my gun to go shoot for the first time, we literally set it to where the shoulder bump kind of just went.
You were at zero heads.
I was at
basically.
0 heads,
Yeah.
exactly. But obviously F-class or, ELR, anything that we shot before, we're between 1 and a 2.
Yeah,
Because
if you had loaded that
because
brass
it's going
the
to
night
grow
before,
some. Exactly.
Yeah,
It wouldn't have fit.
You'd be tight closing
100%.
next morning.
So essentially, Benchrest literally set it to 0.
Yeah. So anyway, this is just what I had to do. Somebody's asking a question. Erik, I run a 419 press. I run a 419 press. I know it's 419.
The area. Yeah.
Area 419. I know it's 419, but I like to call it 419 because it's annoying. I run a area 419 press with your die and expander mandrel. So are you recommending doing 2 pulls of the expander after sizing? Yes.
Yep.
That's what I said.
Yep.
Test it. In my testing, and if you are a member of my forum, you already know this, but you probably, obviously you're not because you don't know this, but I have shown my entire process and I showed the extensive testing that I did to arrive at this conclusion. And I did all this with the amp press, and I tested different mandrels, different sizes, running them 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and then I will seat with the press, and running it twice was the happy place. Also, going with a mandrel or a bushing 4 thousandths under loaded neck diameter. So you take, for my PRCW, it's loaded loaded neck diameter of 310. I use a 306 bushing, and I use a 282 mandrel twice. That's it.
I've had two people in the last couple of weeks ask me, what do you lube your necks with when you're expanding?
On the inside?
Or do you?
Nothing. No. That's why my mandrels. See, that's the other thing. Again, all this stuff that we manufacture small groups. that's our model. And if it's not improving, if it's not with that goal in mind, we don't make it.
But
Trust me,
also,
we could make a bunch of stuff.
You're also not cleaning your brass to bare metal, correct? You still got some carbon.
It doesn't matter.
It would not matter.
The coating that we're putting on those mandrels. So the best is carbide. We all know that. But they're so expensive, right? And not only expensive, like, where do you get them? So, but they're too expensive. And I said, okay, well, I hate lubing brass, right? It's like, it's fine, and then you got to put lube, and then you got to get the lube off, and it's just a pain in the ass, especially the inside.
Right.
So I said, why doesn't anybody make a freaking mandrel that has it? I mean, all these coatings, like, there's got to be a coating. So that's why we use that coating that we use, because the hardness of that coating is actually harder than carbide, but we can get it at a reasonable price.
Right.
We make the mandrels on our high precision machines. We have them coated, and now you don't have to worry about lube. I just run the freaking thing without lube. And I tell you what, if you wear out that mandrel, buy another mandrel.
Yeah. Cheap.
It's cheap. It's cheaper than you having to figure the labor. But anyway,
I was going to say time equals money.
Even after saying all of that, you can lube it if you want. However, I don't, and I've thousands of rounds. I mean, I load so much, and
I thought you were saying
they
join the podcast and you can see that information.
No, well, I'm just saying all this stuff that I'm saying, I've shared on the forum.
Right.
It's there, and people have, I've shared the results. I've shared the testing. I'm like, and that's what. And then guess what? I take that, and we back it with competition results.
Well, so you've proven it in competition. So
yeah. So whatever
that's what really matters the most. That's why I always ask you. Well, what are they winning with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing about this whole. I'm not even going to get into this other crap, but a lot of people say, well, winning doesn't mean it works.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Tell that to the Formula One
You can
teams.
only get lucky so many times.
Yeah, tell that to Formula One, right? But anyway, people are asking, what is your chamber dimensions? Yeah, good luck with that. Well, I don't know. Are you asking about mine? I thought somebody was asking about Jeff's Pineheart's chamber dimensions. I have zero idea what it is.
He's posted it pretty good. It's just the 269 Stay Molly PPC. I don't think he's got any deep dark secrets hidden with it. I know of.
Yeah, well, that's why they're called secrets.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen it posted on Accurate Shooter. I saw it posted once on Benchrest Central. I mean,
all right, Chris is saying, I guess this goes to the blackjack challenge. 2 ideas: make the open sight guys have the distance, and then maybe like 100 yards for black powder guys. Would you really be interested? Anybody agree? No. The way this whole thing started, if you remember, we were just shooting with scopes off a bipod, and the comment section was like, oh, big deal. I can do that with open sights. I can do that with open sights. So that's why it's the exact same challenge with open sights, and that's why I'm willing to pay $5,000 if you can do it. Okay? If I'm gonna make it super easy on you, well, then the $5,000 go away. And now it's a whole different challenge. So keep in mind where it came from. It's people talking smack, saying that they could do it with open sights, and so far nobody's been able to do it because it's damn near. Could it be done? Possibly. They'd have to get extremely lucky. But anyway, so no, I'm not changing the rules because that defeats the whole thing.
3 days later,
You out of time.
Anyway,
gonna get 2 shots off.
what else? Eric, have you ever seen nitride coating wear off? I'm sure it can wear off. I don't know that I've seen it. It
Well,
take
even
a,
like
it
melanite,
take a long time.
when the black coating wears off, the melanite's still there. It's not softer just because you wore the black coating off of it. It's
Yeah.
still hard and it's still pretty slick.
Yeah.
You see that on the bolts of the guns all the time. You know, it doesn't affect us.
So Johnny Ingram is asking, this -4 -2 formula is only for neck turn breast. No, any breast. Oh, any breast is the same formula. I do that for my PRS rifles. I do that for everything.
I said all of my brasses turn, and I still go to that 1/2,000 smaller bushing. Now the other day, I switched to a different lot of brass that somebody gave me, Pat Wood, and and I had never used it before, and I did my regular formula after 5 or 6 fires. I just arbitrarily, because I'm used to doing it, switched to a 1/2,000 smaller, and gun quit shooting.
The gun quit shooting?
Quit shooting.
Wow.
I had to sacrifice a whole 200-yard sporter to make sure I won the light varmint 200 yards. It took me 5 matches to get that gun back in tune, as you can see here with your groups where there's more powder, less powder. It was just the neck tension on that one. I went back to my original bushing and it just started shooting dots again.
Well, Johnny says it would be like 11 million PSI to see the bullet. No.
60?
Run it again. You're probably running the Mandra only once. Run it twice.
I'll be back.
Anyway, so I'm gonna go answer some questions because you guys have questions. So is Cortina Precision gonna start making wind flags now? Oh, that's funny. Probably not. All right, let me see. Let me go to the questions. Is score based on group size only? Is score based on group size only, or group size and point of aim? No. So there's in Benchrest there's two types. There's group and there's score. We were shooting for group only. There's a discipline where they shoot benches for score, and that has to be like literally. Again, the group size doesn't matter as long you can shoot a 50. That's all 5 of them in the 10 ring, or you can shoot a 50 with 5x, which is all of them in the X ring, right? So a 50 with 5x would beat a 50 with 4x. In Benchrest for group, it's the size of the group. As long as you get it on that target, it doesn't matter where it's at. As long as it's on the target, it counts. So that's the difference. So I was doing Benchrest for group. So Eric, are you going to build a 6 PPC? It's time to add another rifle to your safe. The components have been ordered. Let me see. Best brass trimmer system besides the iDod. Pumpkin, if you can get your hands on one. What are you using, Henry?
It's funny you say that. So right now, Speedy let me borrow one of his Covenant. It is a pumpkin. It just made by, I think they're out of Australia, I think, and they import them in. So far so good.
Okay, there you go. So they were asking about a neck turner, Speedy. What do you like?
Well, you've seen my pumpkin patch. I've got 34 different pumpkin neck turners, which I've only got 33 now because Henry's got one.
I offered to buy it. I offered anything.
Now, why do you need so many?
I like to set them up for whatever cartridge I'm using and just leave it sit.
Well, you're not using 34 different cartridges, are you?
Well, sometimes.
Oh my God. You want to buy a pump? I have a pumpkin, Henry.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I had two, and then I sold one like a.
Yeah, I used to use. I saw one on your little lathe when you were turning brass in the old
Yeah,
days.
I have a pumpkin.
I need one. What caliber? Just curious.
7.
It's a 7.
Okay.
It's a
I'll
real
take-
man's
I'll take
cartridge.
it. Seriously.
Don't mix it up with my good one.
No, no. I'll tell you this much. Speedy was
Hey,
like,
Speedy's about to get a 7mm.
yeah, I was like, I got it right here for you. He's like, hey, when you use this, only do about 10. Only do this. When you set it down, don't set it down on a hard surface. Like, put it down on a microfiber towel. Like, he's very, very
He's like a
particular.
kid, huh?
Yeah. And I was like, hey, as long as you let me borrow it, I'll do whatever you want me to.
He's like, Henry, I don't care what happens to you. Just make
Yeah.
sure my pumpkin is
Yeah,
safe.
your house can burn down. Just get my pumpkin out of there.
All right, Speedy. Let's continue because
Okay.
we kind of went off track. All right. So,
So we had shot the 158.
yep.
So at 158, brought that 385 down. If we take 100,000 off that, so you're about 1/4 inch there. And then a 183, so we're coming down on our ag.
Well,
I'm
this is the
assuming
whole-
that you didn't change anything from the
No, I did not.
158 to the 153.
Nope, I did not. Get them in frame.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I didn't change anything.
There was his 158.
Yep.
There's
And all of a
153.
sudden, once I dropped the powder charge, man, this gun was happy. You can see how many good groups I shot in a row. So that completed, show all the targets.
So if you look at this one right here, you started to see a little bit more vertical come into this. Andy didn't.
He commented about that, but I was like, dude, I'm shooting. Now I'm below 2. I'm happy.
Yeah. And then the big vertical came in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened there was a
Well, this is goes back to that, right? Like Andy would say, and I'm thinking, dude, I don't get it. That's the problem.
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know what to do, right? And he's making suggestions, and I don't know which way to go, right? All I know is like, oh, I went this way, and now they're getting good. Well, then he goes, I think now you're getting too light,
Right.
and I'm like, but I was too hot. Like we already came from that direction, and it was not good. Now we're here. He goes, I think you need to go back. And of course, I'm like, I'm shooting tiny groups now. Like, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
Because I just came from there. And he's like, yeah, but now it's been a couple of hours, and I think now it's getting too light.
Well, I remember Jeff telling me at the super shoot, I think it was the last super shoot they had up there at Kelby's. He was shooting to my left. That with his tuners, so you've never mentioned tuners the whole time. I know Jeff has tuners on all his guns. That he typically will develop his load, and then he'll adjust the tuner where it goes out of tune, come back, and then go the opposite direction until it goes out of tune, and come back to the middle. Is that still pretty much his philosophy?
We didn't talk about tuners. He just said, the tuners, everything's set. Right? He goes, this rifle ready to go. We're just going to change powder. Okay. Seating depth, he already had it. He's like, this is the seating depth. And he seated some, and they were 1,000 too long. He goes, that's no good.
You weren't
gotta-
tempted to.
And he's like, nope, gotta get it. Well, so I told him, I said, I'm gonna build a BR rifle, a Benchrest rifle. I said, but, and let me run that by you as well.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here it goes. We talked about this.
And I said, what I want to do, because I don't want to shoot Benchrest to shoot Benchrest. I want to shoot Benchrest to get better at F class.
Right.
Yep.
And I said,
What I tell you?
That's exactly what I'm doing it.
I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a rifle, and I'm going to develop a load like I would do for F class. And I'm going to show up preloaded.
For everything.
I said, I'm going to show up preloaded. Okay. And just ride that tuner. And see if I can keep, because that's what the Benchrest for score guys do. They show up preloaded, and all they do is ride that tuner all day.
But the key to that word was score.
Well, that's what I shoot in F class.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my point. I don't care if I'm not winning matches, but if I can figure out precisely how to keep the rifle in tune,
So then you can apply it to the.
so then I can apply it to F class. Right. I mean, John Myers used to do that. He told me how to do it, but I want to refine that, and I want to see if I can find like the most precise way to do it. You know, I want to be 100% confident when I go and turn that tuner.
Right. We had our treasurer of the club. He's got a disability that doesn't allow him to load at the range with us, so he has to preload at his house at night. And the other day, he shot a 16 ag preloaded.
There you go.
But he took the gun to 200 yards. The load wasn't good, and he just lost it.
Well, again, it's one of those that I'm doing this for F-Class. And,
Right.
and these things are so freaking precise that I think I can get some really good feedback.
That's what I used to tell my students when we used to do the accuracy reloading class, was that I didn't really want them to become Benchrest shooters, although I wouldn't hurt my feelings if they did become that. I said, I can teach you more with these guns where you can actually see it when I demonstrate it, you know, the bullet season depth, the tension on the neck, the powder charge, you know, all those things, how to address the gun, the changes in wind, and I could show you all this to you with these guns that I can't show you with a gun that recoils a lot or doesn't have the same accuracy potential.
Yeah. So that's my plan. Is to build a Benchrest rifle and use it to gather data for F-Class, and hopefully it'll transfer.
We'll start seeing you at the club every month.
Possibly.
Sunday?
Possibly.
Sunday? We
Well, I don't have a
match,
rifle.
haven't
I don't have a rifle. Actually, Sunday, no. But anyway, that's why I'm willing to do it.
I'm like, Jim, we can fix you up with a rifle.
Well,
That's not the problem.
the thing is, V2 finale's coming up, so I got to get ready for that. But anyway, so on with the targets.
What happened here?
Where?
Too light?
Yeah, that's after he
You
told me I
went
was
from,
going.
From this one, it was demonstrating a little bit of vertical as opposed to this one before. This was kind of like a happy little schmish, as my buddy would call it. But you could start to see that. In fact, you can see how they drew the lines to the target, that vertical will start to appear. I think that's why I'm proud that we want to see these targets back to us as quick as possible, so that we can possibly adjust our load for that next match. You know, almost all the good shooters, they'll go to the whaling wall there. That's where they post the targets and evaluate that target to give them one last opportunity to eliminate that right there.
So on the comment section, they said once I start, I'm gonna need a railgun.
Well, you have a round.
I already have a railgun.
I tried to buy one last week, I think. So I was like, I caught the sickness, I guess, and one to the next.
Yeah. Well, this is not.
A railgun won't give you the same data you want to do with the tuner as a bag gun will. They're a whole different animals. If you thought these can be frustrating loading and stuff from, a railgun is completely different.
Yeah. Well, that's why I haven't shot mine, because remember I had
Yeah,
it
well,
built. I built the whole thing, and you go, and I'm like, yeah, I got a railgun, and you're like, you don't just shoot a railgun.
No.
You have to learn how to.
I think
And you said you have to build a steady platform, and I'm like, oh my god! So there's
you know any concrete people.
not anymore. All the ones I know, they don't want to.
I don't know if you caught this in Jeff's interview when he was talking about railguns and all that he tightened the torque up on the screws.
Yeah.
So that block that holds that barrel is almost like a tuner.
Yeah.
So you've got a range that will hold that barrel in place. And the minimum, I think, is like 40 inch-pounds. And somewhere between 40 inch-pounds and on my gun, 40 to 65 inch-pounds, that gun will come into tune. And when if you shoot a whole day and the temperature rises, you may have to loosen or tighten that block around that barrel.
Yeah.
That's why nowadays most of the rail guns are built with a Delrin block that surrounds the barrel to isolate it a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a lot of work. It's what I'm finding out.
Yes, it is.
This whole chasing zeros is insane.
But you know, the joke I've always heard, being a Benchrest shooter or a point blank shooter, as the F-class shooters call
Thank you.
They used to say that we do a lot of loading and cleaning and very little shooting. So in the course of a day, you'll shoot 60 rounds, record shots, and we'll shoot 50,
Yeah.
with a lot of loading and cleaning in between. We just do it all at one run time instead of having to do it, months ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference. So, all right, on to the next target. Like I said, that's Jeff. Andy said, I think you're getting too light. I go, man, I'm shooting little dots. I'm going to keep it. And
So what do we do after this?
boom.
Do we go up another 10th, or we?
Yeah, we went up a 10th.
So you finished up the heavy varmint with that one.
Exactly. Now, that one I have a story. That one, now I'm confident. My confidence is growing. I'm learning. I'm learning. Every time I'm shooting, I'm learning. And I'm looking at the flags and things of that nature, right? And on this last one, I got 4 shots that are pretty small, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's pretty small. I got 4 shots in there, and all the flags are green. For those of you that don't understand how
You got green or red?
the flags, when they're going right to left, the wind's going left to right, they're green, if I remember correctly, and the other way, they're red, or one or the other. The point is, green, red. Okay? So all the flags are the same color, and I start shooting. I mean, I go to work, and I get 4 shots on, and then I see one flip red. They're all green, and all of a sudden, one of them, kind of the 60-yard mark or so, it just flips completely to red, and I hit the brakes. And I'm like, because I had ruined that last group on the light gun by saying, screw it, just go for it.
Right, just like sitting out there, a little satellite.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I don't care if I do the same thing again, as long as I'm doing something about it. Because the previous time I'm like, I did nothing about it. This time I'm like, I don't care if I blow it out, as long as I do something about it.
Learn.
So I hit the brakes, and the flag turned red, and then it's coming back. It went back. I got down and I shot the last shot, and it went right through that group.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm pumped up now. I look back, and Jeff was back there watching. Because he was done. He's back there watching, and he's so excited. He's clapping. He goes, good job, because I actually waited. Because when that flag turned, I bet you him and Andy were thinking I was about to blow that group up. And I would have if I would have shot. But I hit the brakes. So I was pretty proud of that moment because, again, I was like, just bear down and don't shoot.
Yeah. How many flags did you have between you and the target?
5, I believe. Yeah. So anyway, so I was pretty that group right there. I'm pretty happy about it, simply because I stopped and I waited a good 30 to 45 seconds before I shot the last shot, and it went through the same hole again.
So as you're starting to see these flags and all stuff, is that going to change the way you evaluate flags when you're shooting F-class?
Possibly. It's still very different, But
Well, you
I'm
can
gonna
actually
look at them differently now.
Right. And you're not shooting as high up in the air as you're shooting basically over the tops of these flags. So
Correct.
you're in the wind that you can see. You're not shooting one that's 30, 40 feet in the air, and coming back down.
Exactly. So, anyway.
More or less of the same.
Yep. That's all. That's all it takes.
So you got through your 100-yard day pretty much. So you went light varmint, heavy varmint. So y'all started heavy varmint in the morning the next day?
The next day, yep.
That's how they work it if they don't change targets. You go all 100 one day, light varmint, heavy varmint. And then the next morning you start with heavy varmint and wind up with light varmint.
Yep, that's what we did.
The heavy varmint, 100 yards. Yeah. So we went with several loads again.
Yep.
So there's that beautiful weather report.
Now, I'm doing something, here's something different that I'm doing. Because now I've had time to sleep on it, time to evaluate what day one was like. And I go,
that's what Meatloaf says, let me sleep on it.
And then I go, and then I thought, you know what? I never once went back to the cider target. And when I got in trouble, I just wait, just like F-class, look at the flags. I'm like, okay, and then shoot. I'm like, idiot, you got the cider target. You can go down there and shoot.
I literally found out about it after the shoot. He's like, why don't you go back down to the bottom? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, you can go back and check your load, make sure it's good. And I'm like, okay, well, that would have been good to know.
So that's what I did. I was like, okay, I can go back to the target. So that's what I did on that one. I went.
Is that what you're doing here, checking?
Yeah. So let me see the group. Okay. So the group was so
Keep them centered.
the first. So now I'm treating it like F class.
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding lines just like I would do in F class.
Right.
So I'm holding right 2. Point at right 2, please.
So you still got that.
No, that's 3. Yeah, 2. Okay. See what you did there? 3.
Well, I was going to it. I'll just get there.
No. That's exactly what I did.
Oh, you went right.
No, I held right 2,
Uh-huh.
but in F class, we have that X ring, which would be smaller.
Right.
So I shoot my first shot. Boom. And then I go, and then I'm about to shoot my second one. I go, oh crap, where did I hold? I held right 3, right? And I go, there's no way I held that far out there. There's no way that wind is drifting the bullet that much. And I started to panic a little bit.
Let me go to the cider.
And I go, oh, go to the cider. So I come back down here, and I hold right 2, and it goes right in the center. And I go, okay, that's what it was. So I come back up, and I work on the group some more, and then I hit another shot. Now, I was in panic mode for a while, and then I remember the cider. So I come down, hit in the center. I go back up, show the group again. I go back up, and I hit again, and now the wind changes, so I have to hit the brakes. Okay, because while I was panicking, I didn't shoot, so I actually hit a low one and a high one. Yeah. But still, I'm there. I'm like, okay. And then the wind just picks way up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I gotta hit the brakes. So then I went back to the cider target to check, and sure enough, it hit there. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to shoot. So then as the wind was calming down, I would take a shot and see where it was. Anyway, it got to the point where I forget which one it was, but I was like, okay, I'm good to go now. And the wind was back to consistent. And I went back up and shot the last 3 shots. And they went in the center. Show the group. Right there. So I was very happy with that group. Because that group could have been
It doesn't demonstrate all the panic in there.
Oh, it could have looked like the one at the bottom.
Yeah.
So were you holding? Obviously, you're holding like right 2, right 3.
Yeah, just
But
like
were
F
you-
class.
Were you also going up for aerodynamic
No, that's
jump?
the thing I wasn't doing, and I think
And you
that's
could see that on
I
there.
think that's why I had so much vertical,
Vertical.
because, and that's what Jeff was saying. He goes, "Well, did you hold up and down?" I go, "No, I'm just holding side to side." He goes, "Okay, well, that's where the vertical's coming
Yeah.
from."
You don't think that's where some of those mysterious 9s come from? They're 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock from aerodynamic jump?
Possibly. Now I think so. Yeah. So
Because the first time I sat in for Brett Solomon, his cap right here, I had my little wind chart there with my other notes I was keeping, and Nancy Tompkins says, "What is that?" I said, "Well, that's just a wind chart that shows aerodynamic jump, you know." And she says, "Well, you know, in Palma, our 10 ring's so big, we don't worry about that. You know, I guess so shooting with open sights, you're not too concerned. You just want to hit the target." And so she says, "So, are you telling me when that wind changes that you're holding high and low?" And I said, "Y'all don't do that?" She said, "No. Yeah, we just hold right 1, right 2." And it says the shooter's responsible for their vertical. And so when it was all over with, she came in, she said, "Can I have that?" And she took it with her.
But when you say the shooter's responsible for the vertical, it's mainly on their gun, because most.
well, it's on
and-
target.
Right, correct. But what I'm saying, honestly, do you hold up and down for aerodynamic jump in F class?
Thanks.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks for asking me that live. You could have asked me all this after we got done.
I'm just,
Yeah, over lunch.
I don't know.
Yes. All right, Speedy, back to the group.
Okay, back to the group. So here's some little bit of demonstration of aerodynamic
Okay.
jump right
All
here.
right. Yes. Now let's go back to the target because I did there and I'm like, okay, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I go back up. Right now, I'm telling you, the wind is freaking wicked. This is day 2. The wind is freaking wicked. Okay. See the shot at 7 o'clock or what? 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
and the one at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
Those were the first 2. And then I hit the
can't
brake.
make that any bigger.
Exactly. So I hit the brakes. Put the target in the screen again. I hit the brakes after those first 2, and I'm like, uh oh. All right. Stop. And now it becomes a game. So I treated that target, those 2 shots, I treated them just like F-class. I'm like, okay, that's my 10 ring. Don't go any further right and don't go any further left. Put them in between, right?
So we go down cider. Check
So,
it.
yep, I went down to the cider.
Which one? Here or here?
That one.
This one?
I think the left, yep. And I waited for the wind to die down, and I took a shot, and it went in there, right? And I said, man, I'm going to shoot another one. Make sure. I had already shot one. They had a shot in there before. And then I said, I'm going to shoot 2 to make sure it's good. And I shot those 2 that are touching.
Yep.
And then I went back up to the target, and I fired them off. And then I hit those 2 that are touching and the one that's slightly high.
Yeah.
And
Get
I was
over it.
so happy because the first 2, well, it didn't make the group any bigger
Yeah.
after the first 2. But, it could have been, if I would have kept shooting, and we're going to get to one of those targets where I kept shooting.
So
And you can see how bad it can get really fast.
here's a nice target here. When you shoot, you were 9 thousandths away from an official screamer patch because 250 is an official screamer.
Oh, I wish I had known that. I would have.
Yeah, you were 9 thousandths away.
didn't
from
know
an
that was
official
a thing.
screamer. So.
I wish I had known
Yeah,
that. I
I
would've-
mean, if I was scoring for you, I would have said, oh, poor bastard, let's just give it to him. It'll be his first official screamer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But yeah, a 250 is an official screamer.
At 200.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's pretty good. Just
Okay. Having said that, I won first place with that
this
group.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in
Well,
that match.
a 250 is official screamer, so you were just 3 thicknesses of paper away from it. Come on, Eric. Tighten up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of your ciders all demonstrate that, you were going for something like that. So, what were these?
There were different loads.
Okay.
1/10, and the one on the left had flat, and the one on the other was vertical. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay with the one on the left.
Okay, you got a little bit of. No,
Well, that's because I was moving.
yeah.
I was moving left to right, but that I wasn't compensating for vertical.
Yeah. Like I said, you're just 9 thousandths away from an official screamer.
Yeah. So that went pretty good.
And then we had to muck it up. So this is the same load, same everything?
Yeah, and that's another one of those where I the first 2 were a mile apart.
Right?
The first 2 were a mile apart, and I'm like, okay, now you're gonna squeeze the other ones in there. And you can see because of the vertical
Yeah.
that I was just moving left and right. Go up. I was just going left and right.
Yeah. But almost all these targets, they've almost all got that diagonal aerodynamic jump pattern. That
Yeah, 'cause
you
I
start
wasn't
to
doing
see. Yeah,
anything
if you were
about
rimfire shooting, you would really be aware of that,
Yeah.
But because of the low BC that we're shooting, even though we're shooting pretty high velocities, the ballistic coefficient of those bullets, especially the lighter ones in 68s.
Yeah, they rival a brick.
And we finished it up with a 569.
Okay, so that one on the bottom, I have no idea what happened.
Down here?
No, that
Oh,
one.
this one out.
Yep.
Well, that could be a little anticipation again.
Yeah. Something. I don't know what it was, but
Yeah, that'd have been a keeper right there, about a 350 or so. If you,
I still had to keep it.
yeah,
That's the problem. They made me keep it anyway.
No mulligans.
But anyway, it was all good. Good stuff.
yeah. So when I shoot 200 yards, I always want to have if we're adding it up like score, I want to have like a 29 to begin with, and then work that down. So if I shot 5 5s at 200 yards, that would be a 25 ag because we just add them up. So if I shot 5 6s, that would be a 30, you know. So if I shot 4 6s and a 5, that would be a 29 something. So that's how I work my scores down, you know. So if I start off with something like that, well, that's going to just slightly, if I don't shoot anything bigger than that, I'm going to wind up with a 25 ag, you know, and then I start working it down from there.
I got a question that people have asked me, and I have no answer. That square, what's the deal with that square?
That's left over from the old days of low resolution scopes. Today, it's still used when we get real high mirage at 200 yards. There's days at 200 yards you can't even see the rings, and sometimes you can barely see that square.
Oh, okay. All right, makes sense.
So usually what I'll do when those mirage days when you can't see your bullet holes or the rings, I'll get my vertical crosshair to line with that, you know, and then just kind of center this target right here because you can usually see that square, you know. Now if the wind's real bad, sometimes I'll just hold on the edge here and shoot as fast as I can. But that's 2 inches, and the center square is 1 inch, and then it's 1 inch and ½ inch on the 100 yards. So you can still use them to your advantage on those really bad days. So here we go. Ooh. So they're a nice looking group.
Yeah, that one got me 3rd place.
357. And what did we change any loads or anything from?
I don't remember now. No, I don't think so.
Because you were shooting pretty good.
Well, now I just left it. Yeah.
Yep.
And I came back and shot that one again.
So down here you had some of these shots going down. Was this a different?
Yeah, I was
load?
testing different loads.
Okay. Uh-oh.
So that's one of those.
So this is what Benchrest shoes refer to as weather report.
Okay. Again, I know we're just looking at groups here, but the wind was freaking wicked.
Yeah.
And this one, I jumped in at the wrong time. And the two that are farthest apart were the first two. Because I shot the first one. It was the one at 3 o'clock. And I just said, I'm going for it. And I shot the next one and hit a full ring to the left. And I hit the brakes. I said, all right, well, that's not going well. So I just hit the brakes, and I'm watching the conditions. I'm watching the flags, and I go, okay, just put them between the two. And as you can see, I shot a sighter. No, in the center.
Oh, no, over here.
Yeah. I went to the center, wherever I was holding, and I shot a sighter. And I'll come up to the other target, and you can see that it lines up right there.
Yeah.
So I sent the next 3, and they dotted up right there. So the load was good. It's just that was
Just the wind.
user error.
Yeah.
I jumped in at the wrong time.
So it
But
was a good.
that's one of
it
those-
was a good water line too. Then
That's
huh?
one of those where I was really happy with that I didn't make the group any bigger. You know, I used my F-class experience on that one.
So if we look at this target this way, we've also got a weather report. ¿Qué pasa here?
I don't know qué pasa.
Was it the gun starting to go out of tune?
I don't know. It's all a blur
So-
now.
Were these loads here? Were they on the hotter side still, or had you gone down or anything?
I don't remember. But
I know we do try to forget things like this.
I know.
Unfortunately, you had posted them on the internet, so they'll never go away.
So, you know, that one right there, I really don't know what happened. But it was another one that the first two were the outer ones.
The top one and the bottom.
Yeah. And you can see where I went back to the sighter of the bottom.
Yeah, you hell at filling those things in.
And yeah, I mean, because, you know, that's from F-class, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, okay, this is not good, but let's not make it any worse. So I'd hit the brakes, and then I'd stop, and I go, okay, all right, where is it going now, you know? And then I just come in and fill them in the center, which, again, that's from F-class, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, if this one right here would have been center, like if you were shooting F-class, there would have been one of those crazy 9s up there.
Yeah.
One of them flyers.
Yeah. But, you know, again, I was pretty happy with the way that I managed chaos, you know,
Yeah.
because that could have been.
Well, were you starting to shoot, like, was the wind starting to come in like a headwind now, or what was
It was a
happening?
headwind, and it would rotate to full value.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, most of this, these groups right here look like, you know, you were fighting that headwind just by
Yeah,
looking
well, I started that one, and what happened there? I started that group. I was shooting full value, I believe,
at it. Let's see it.
and I don't remember it now, but it was not good.
Yeah.
And there's that one. That one I was like, I'm just gonna shoot. After that other one that I had to stop and go and all
Yeah.
that, I go, you know, maybe I need to go back to the just shoot.
Run and gun.
Yeah,
Well, that didn't work out, did it?
not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
And then, yeah, I mean, you were fighting horizontal and vertical.
Well, I was just fighting conditions.
Yeah.
This is what happened, you know.
I mean, these look like groups that I see when we have headwinds, when people don't have their gun in tune for headwinds.
Yeah, but you know, that was just me shooting at the wrong time. And I mean, the conditions were tough.
Yeah.
Now, having said all this, that's all the groups, right?
That's it.
Having said all that, as bad as some of those look,
Well, I noticed how you,
yeah, let's
can we bring that up?
Yeah, that's where I was going with this.
So in the two gun, which is a combination of all 4 yardages right there, light varmint 100 yards, heavy varmint 100, heavy varmint 200, and light varmint 200. We wind up with the grand aggregate right there. So overall, Erik came in 10th. Poor Jeff, who lent Erik his gun, wound up 13th. And,
Well, that's because Jeff lent me the good gun.
and what's his name, who was trying to help you out? I don't see his name on here anywhere. Andy Shiflett.
Oh, Andy wasn't shooting.
Oh, he wasn't shooting?
No.
Oh, well, no wonder I didn't see his name.
That's
on
why
there.
he had time to
I said,
help me.
that's the way you help somebody. You just wind up sucking.
No, he was helping me. He wasn't shooting. But anyway, so
But anyway, Wayne Campbell won it. He usually has a way of pulling things out of a hat to win it. Did you have an interview with him?
not yet. We're working on one.
Okay. He'd be interesting gentleman to talk to, especially since he's Tony Boyer's protege.
Yeah, he knows a thing or two.
Yeah, I think on the point standing and towards the Hall of Fame, he's like second on the list, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's got a bunch, like 70 something.
Well, he told me that him and Tony were point whores.
So after, you know, you guys, some of these groups are big, you know, and again, I don't know how big is, right? All I'm doing is I'm trying to keep them as small as possible. And I was shooting some really small groups. And when it's all said and done, because I don't have any reference as to how well it did, the wind or anything. Plus, I had to get to the airport. So before the award ceremony, I had to leave. So I just said goodbye to everybody and I left. And I'm halfway through the airport and Andy calls me. He goes, "You got 10th overall. That's freaking good." And I go, 10th place? Oh my God, that's pretty good. Based on the fact, and of course I wasn't looking at nobody else's groups. I was just looking at my stuff. And
Well, I mean,
was
you're
trying
right
to
in here,
manage.
Hall of Fame member. You got Wayne Campbell, Larry Costa, Bart Sider, Paul Mitchell. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 Hall of Fame members in the top 10. And Jeff Pinehard's right behind you on 13th.
Jeff was working on a rifle. He actually brought a heavy rifle, and he said he was going to test it and
He was probably getting ready for the
super shoot.
Super shoot.
And he was just testing a few rifles. And
Jack Neary.
halfway through, I said, "Man, I said, here, take this rifle back." He goes, "I ain't taking that rifle back." He goes, "I know how to take an ass whooping. You just keep doing well." I said,
Well,
"All right."
I mean,
So the best thing that I could have done at that point is shoot as well as possible. 'Cause
another thing that people don't understand about Benchrest, unlike F-Class, they throw you in with the wolves. You're right there with the sharks. There's no intro class. There's no, master, high master. You're just swimming with the sharks,
Yeah, I like that. I actually like that in a competition.
Yeah.
I want to. Well, I guess it has to do with what you want to do, right? For example, and this is why I'm very careful with what I do, like Benchrest. Okay, like as of right now, my mind is made up that I'm gonna use it to get better at F-class. Right, that's gonna be my thing. Because if I get into Benchrest for Benchrest, I asked Jeff when he told me about this match. I said, "Do they award Hall of Fame points at this match?" He goes, "No." I said, "Good." He goes, "Why is that good?" I said, "Because the worst thing that could happen to me right now is to get 1 point. That would be the death of me.
That's what happened to me.
That would be the death of me. I'd get 1 point, and then I'd probably drop everything to chase the other 9.
All right.
So what shoots do you get your points at?
Nationals only.
Nationals only.
Yeah.
Is it just one nationals?
There's only one. Well, you get the IBS Nationals or the NBRSA Nationals. So
Got it.
They
Potentially
share
2.
points amongst.
2 points.
Well, you get more points than that. It depends. You can win a yardage or a grand or the 3-gun. So you can win the 2-gun and the 4-gun at the Nationals, and you get no points whatsoever.
Wow.
But you if you win the 3-gun, you can get and that's just because of the format that they used to shoot in the old days. Yeah, they had the Varmint Nationals and they had the Unlimited Nationals. So the Unlimited railguns and stuff like that went for 4 days. And then the Varmint Nationals went for 5 days.
Wow.
And when they combined them, there was, like I said, there was never any 2-gun before that, or any 4-gun, so that they don't award points as a result of that. But that's something you should be proud of. I'm proud of you for doing that.
Thank you, boss.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So when Jeff lent you his gun, and I'm sure y'all probably had some conversation like we do when we were in your shop over there talking about the shrouds and everything else, we're going to talk about in a minute. And we've talked about fire controls and that being kind of the heart of the gun. Did y'all discuss any technical stuff that some of the viewers would be interested in?
We didn't get into that. There was really no time. I mean, that rifle was ready to go, but Jeff, he's a precision machinist, so he's done a bunch of stuff to it, I'm sure.
Right.
But no, we didn't discuss anything really.
You did share one thing with me that you kind of took from it or you learned from it, but you said you may not have time to load, but you are going to make time to clean.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So during the practice day, he goes, it's going to be very hectic. He goes, when you're done shooting.
Well, describe your clean procedure after you.
Well, that's where I'm going. He said, it's going to be very hectic. When you're done shooting, immediately come and put the gun on the rack, throw a bore guide in there, and brush it. He has a bronze brush with, I forget what solvent he uses. He goes, and just give it like 5 strokes, and push the rod out, put some more solvent on the brush, and give it another 5 strokes, and go in there and load ammo. Come back, patch it dry, and clean out the chamber, clean out the tuner cavity, and do the lock keys and all that. He goes, and you'll be good to go. And he goes, but it's gonna be hectic, so like, don't mess around. Yeah. Get to work.
Well, you have 30 minutes from the time they say ceasefire to the time they call you back to the line.
Yeah. But it feels like 5.
So he said, it's gonna be hectic, and I said, okay. I said, what if I don't have time to clean it? And he looks at me dead in the eye and he goes, you may not have time to load, but you will have time to clean.
That's true.
Yeah. It's that's how serious you guys clean those barrels. Like, keep it clean. He said, you may not have time to load, but you will have time to clean.
Nowadays, bronze brushes are looked at like, kryptonite to Superman.
Yeah, but no, it was like, no, you're cleaning this thing.
Well, I mean, to order shoot those groups, you have to keep them clean. One way or the other, they got to be clean. I don't know if I believe in that scrubbing it back to bare metal stuff, but they've got to be clean. Let's see. I think we got that already. We went through that. what did he feel was, the greatest thing that you should change or the most important thing that you should change when your gun's not shooting? Did Jeff talk to anything about that, or Andy was giving you most of the tutelage?
It was mainly Andy. I mean, Jeff kind of gave me a rundown, but it's different once you're there, once you're actually doing it.
Right.
Because I don't know how to read the groups, right?
Right.
I'm looking at the groups. I'm like, it's big or it's small, and they're like, well, like with the small group, I'd be happy, but Andy be like, that's a good group, but
Right.
it's showing signs that this or that or the other, and I don't, like. I don't know
Yeah,
how
and
to.
I think that's the biggest thing when you shoot for score, that you don't pay as much attention to that as you would when you're actually shooting for group, where you can start seeing that. Because, you never actually see your bullet holes when you're shooting for score.
Right.
You're depending on where those people put that spotter. Now it's all electronic.
Well,
What's the margin of error on the electronic targets?
Well, it depends. I think it's like bullet width.
Okay.
Yeah, so one bullet.
So that means that one bullet could be a X, or it could be a 10, or it could be a 10 or a 9. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's really no different than a human.
Yeah.
Right? They got that freaking target.
All right.
And they're just dancing. They run that thing up in the air, and they're trying to go fast, and then that target's doing this.
Yeah.
That's moving way more than a bullet width, right? Or I've seen those targets they're so old, right? And the cardboard has gotten wet and dried, and then it's got a big curvature in the center.
Yeah.
Well, how much does that target just shrink?
Right.
So it's a give and take. The thing about targets is their frames are usually pretty stout,
Right.
just because they know they're going to be stationary, and it's not moving. So it's a give and take.
Yeah, as long as it's equal across the board, it really doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Let me ask you
That's
something.
the other thing about targets is everybody gets the same pit service.
Yeah.
Right. Let me ask something, Speedy, about that. Just informative, I guess, to the viewers, myself, and Erik talked about not necessarily knowing how to read the group, right, or how to read the bullet hole and stuff like that. So when do you increase powder? When do you decrease powder? When do you increase bullet tension, decrease it, seating depth? Can you go over that? Just
Well, I think I've talked to Erik enough about it that our bullet seating depths with a specific chamber and a specific bullet, I make my own, so they're pretty consistent, And Erik, I don't know how many he buys at a time of the same lot.
Bullets?
Yeah.
I like to get at least 6,000.
Okay. So,
Enough for 3 barrels.
and my gun, my bullet seating depth is always starts about the same spot. If you go from the hard jam, it's about 8 to 12 thousandths off, and if I go from that touch, kind of like we started to demonstrate on Erik's podcast when we were dropping that case into the barrel right there, it usually moves from that touch point to about 14 thousandths longer than that.
right. But that's your original seating
Your
depth.
bullet seating depth stay pretty much the same.
Yeah, I just use the same one.
All right. So I refine it from there, but it's not a whole lot. But I said most of my tune stays with the neck tension and the powder. I mean, there's sometimes I'll try to move the bullet, but I say every time I do, it really doesn't seem to affect it that much. I have seen it a couple of groups get good, and then it just quit shooting again. So I go back to my old seat, and then it comes back. So maybe the conditions here aren't as calm as the conditions there in the east are, and where you can see that a lot more than you can here. I mean, with the mirage and stuff we've got here. I mean, when we were at Midland the other day, I mean, the wind was from the center of the target to the edge of the target. The 2-inch plus groups were common.
Jeez.
And that wind was blowing, dust was blowing, everything. So in those situations, you're just trying to survive almost. On Jeff's gun, I said you shot a bad action, I'm assuming, probably.
Correct.
Big Andy trigger or Jewel?
I didn't ask about the trigger.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a Jewel, I believe, because I remember I said, well, they don't even make those anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it was a Jewel.
Yeah.
Krieger barrel.
Bigger barrel. March scope probably.
It was a March. Yep.
48 High Master. Or
I don't know. I had a dot in it and a crosshair.
little short was that?
Yeah, the stock was
Scarborough or Scoville?
Scarborough, more likely. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, pretty.
Basic.
It looked like.
Other than the
the
cartridge
other-
that he's using, that 6.5 Grand will neck down. And so over the course of the 3 days, you mainly just changed your powder. You didn't mess with the neck tension or bullet seating depth or any of that.
No, just powder.
Just powder.
Just powder. That's it. I mean, I was trying to keep it simple. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't even write the powder, much less.
All right.
I didn't want to throw any more variables into the mix.
And we went over your loads right there and needling. You didn't have to do that because you had 100 pieces of brass that all worked in the gun.
Yep.
Cleaning, you already went to that pretty good.
Yep.
Well, CLR and the tuners. I said you just left Jeff's the way it was.
Yep.
So you notice that most of the tuners in Benchrest, I think I'm the only one that's ever shot a Cortina tuner in Benchrest. And I won the heavy varmint with it out there in Midland.
Well, look at you. Good job.
I won the
Somebody just sorry to interrupt, but somebody just set a range record at Deep Creek. Sean Williams, I believe. Let me look that up right quick.
That's a
That's a
heavy
long
bench
range.
gun, isn't it? Yeah,
Long range.
Benchrest.
Let me see. Sean Williams. He shot a 1.4 something at 1,000 yards, and
Yeah.
he was using one of our tuners as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, they came and said, "Are you shooting a Cortina tuner on your gun?" And I said, "What did it say on it?" So anyway, yeah, he had to have it. He was going to a match, and I said, "Well, I'll get another one." So I said, "I think I've got another one at the house. Take that one."
There you go.
But yeah, I think that was the first time when everybody in Benchrest, short range Benchrest, ever shot one of your tuners. Shot great. It was a lot easier to adjust than some of the other ones when I was out there on the range testing, you know. So, of course,
That's
the
the
one
idea.
I'm shooting has the extension on it, but most of all the tuners that you saw out there that the Benchresters use are extended past the muzzle.
Yep.
Did Jeff talk anything about his tuners or his design or anything, or y'all go over that?
No, we didn't talk about that.
We were talked about taking what you've learned and applying it to the long range game. So I think just like I've talked to you and some of the other guys, we've got at our club, you know, the New Braunfels Benchrest club is right adjacent to the F class club over there, and we've got a lot of shooters doing kind of just what you're talking about. You know, they're coming over there because we've got the flag, so you can see wind in real time and how it actually moves across the range, you know, because you've got that wind on the ground. There's a lot more friction with the wind than it is up high, you know, so you can see all those eddies and all that stuff like you do, you know, running water. And if you look at a creek or something, you'll see a rock in the middle. It causes the water to swirl around it. So you probably experienced some of that where flags were going around
Oh
in
yeah, there's
circles.
stupid flags just sitting
tails
around
were-
going like this.
Yeah.
Like one of them be like all the flags will be showing green, and then there's one
Yeah.
doing this in the middle. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on there? Or I'd see like because there's a sea of flags, right?
Right.
And I'd look to my left, and I'd see like all the ones. It was like quartering, like all the ones kind of if you take a square, right? Like the
Right.
bottom left corner, they were all good, like consistent.
Mhm.
And then you can see like you could see the wind, all the flags starting to switch.
Yeah.
And it's like a wave.
Yeah. Well, that's what.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. When I went to go shoot my first Benchrest, I didn't set up any flags. I was like, I got so much crap that I gotta like focus on. I gotta load. I was stressed, right?
Listen to Speedy.
Yeah, so I got to do all this stuff. Speedy was there, all the guys from the F class and Deets and whatnot. So I didn't take any flags. So I'm like, there's 1,000 flags on this range, right? I'm just gonna bum off of somebody's flags. So to my left was Speedy, and then to my right, I forgot who it was, but anyway, he had a little bit bigger flags. They were a little bit easier to see. They were like just a little bit bigger. So I'm like, great, I'm going to use those to my right. Condition was coming from 9 o'clock. So
Aren't they heavier and slower?
well, no, but they're just, that's just what I shot,
Okay.
and I picked up on them, and I started somewhat good. Then the wind picked up, and I come back, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and what's going on. And Speedy's like, well, what are you looking at? What are the flags telling you? I was like, well, the ones on the right. He's like, wait, what do you mean the ones on the right? He's like, the conditions coming out of your left. I said, when you're looking at them, I'm like, yeah, but
Old news.
they're 6 feet away. Like, does it really matter? And he's like,
The bullet's only a quarter.
right. So I'm
Quarter
like,
inch.
he's like, so I just got to look at the ones 6 feet to my left, or I guess 3 feet to my left, 6 feet from the other ones. He's like, it'll make a hell of a difference. I'm like, all right, whatever, right? I didn't say that, obviously. I said, okay, yeah. So I went and looked at the left, whoop, right back down. And
When
he's
I
like,
teach shooting, that's how I teach. You got the flags in front of you, so that's present time.
Right.
And if you've got that left to right wind right there, the wind that's coming from your left is the future. You know, that's
Right.
what's going to happen in your target. So
Right.
if you're looking at that coming, you've got a block of time that you can shoot. If you see all these flags the same, you can shoot everything as long as everything's the same. But everything over here is already after the fact. You know, so you might be seeing the end of what was that block of time that just passed by. You know,
which is,
and
there's,
everything's starting to change, letting up or something, that'll suck your bullet back in the other direction.
which is crazy. There's 3 things I took away from it all. First of all, is how much a tenth of a grain matters.
Yeah,
How much a wind can move a bullet at 100 yards.
yeah,
And what the past and the future,
yeah.
tell you what the difference is.
Right. Well, so I mean,
it's
here,
6 feet
both
away.
of you guys attended your first match, and both of y'all had almost similar experiences. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, Erik used to kind of scoff at me with all these wind flags. Cause I would know, how do you do your own development without any wind flags? I watch some rods. Well, what do you do if you go into the V2 and it's overcast like this for the whole week?
I just pray. It's F-class. It's a big target.
Okay, well, we're through with this. We had a couple of other things that we've talked about in some of the podcasts before, and I said even Jeff, who was so gracious to host you out there at the hog roast, mentioned how critical the fire control is on the gun. He kind of vaguely went into a few details, is that they've made modifications to the shrouds and this and that so that everything would work better in it. So I guess I've badgered Erik long enough to where he's actually starting to make. Can we see these?
Oh yeah, here we go.
He's actually starting to
Put
make.
them next to the table. That's where the camera's focused.
Right here.
Yeah.
Let me get this out of here.
Flip it opposite. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's a nice white spot for it right there. So he's actually started to make the shrouds the same way that we do when we blueprint one. Here's one that's been sectioned. Let me see if I can use this firing pin to point it out. Here's the cylindrical section where the cocking piece moves in and out of. And what we do to ensure that this thing doesn't drag anywhere inside of this hole right here is we bore this out. How much over the shroud are we boring these out? 15, 20,000?
I think it's 20.
20 thousandths. So that should give you enough clearance so as this cocking piece moves forward, it's not dragging anywhere inside of the back of the shroud. Also, you can see this little slot that's cut on the Remington style shroud where you've got this cross pin. You don't want that cross pin to stick out the other side and possibly drag on that. So we've made allowances for it just in case that did happen, that it could be corrected. I think there was an issue that showed up on Facebook last year, somebody showing a cross pin that had come out and was dragging on the inside of the shroud. Well, this just gives you one more opportunity to eliminate that in case it does happen. Also, if you look at this little notch right here, this eliminates the friction between the bottom of your the tail on your cocking piece, and it just serves as a guide. This is the amount of movement that we typically have, is it's in the cock position, and then we drop the sear and it moves forward. we're trying to eliminate as much friction instead of this dragging all the way along this edge right here. We just got this one guide section. You can see them right here. Let me see. I've got one I just finished up at the shop. I don't know if you can see this or not. Maybe not. But it's done exactly the same way. It's got the guide. It's been relieved here down the back. You can see that this has been bored out. If I get the light just right. And it's also got those two little safety notches along the side. Another thing that we do in order to relieve or eliminate some of the friction. You trying to adjust me? I'll turn some lights on. There we go. That looks a little better. You can see the inside of the nose of your shroud right here, where you've got two guiding sections, and the inside has been relieved to eliminate that friction as that firing pin moves through it. This is a big fat pin right here. And also, I think when you can find these on Erik's website, and he's going to be selling the 28-pound springs to go along with them.
24.
24. You could do any of the 28s like you shooting your gun too, or just 24s?
Just 24 for now.
Okay.
I mean, the 24 is the standard spring.
Yeah.
That's gonna work for just about everybody. The 28 is kind of a specialty spring.
Well, that's because you're shooting those Russian primers and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
So they have a thicker
24
cup on it.
is a
Yeah, it's a benchmark standard.
It's the standard. So they're gonna come with a 24-pound spring.
So.
And they're gonna be a high quality spring too.
I always try to bring something new to every one of Erik's podcasts and some of the things that we look for when we're playing with these springs. So what we typically do, I don't know where I put that. Here it is. When you get a spring, I don't know if you can see this or not, they're flat ground on the end, and they usually leave a pretty good burr on the inside of that spring right there. So what we'll do, and I'll pay you this purple, you can buy these 28-degree or 14-degree carbide chamfering tools, and you can take them and eliminate that burr from the inside. And hopefully we'll be able to see. That's why I painted this purple. You can see the material that just came off of that inside of that spring. And does it show up? You can see a little nice 28-degree chamfer, just as like you seat your bullets into your cartridges. If you don't have a chamfer on the mouth, it's very hard to see. You can start shaving stuff off. A lot of times what will happen with that sharp edge. Which one? With that sharp edge on there, it'll start to catch your spring, and you'll see a lot of this right here. You see how this has been nitrided. You can see how this moves in and out of that shroud. You can see this edge right here where that sharp edge has been really rubbing on that thing. And in fact, you can, even with this nitride, you can feel a rougher edge here than in here that was moving in and out of that shroud. So here's something else that we see on springs. So when you get your new spring, you should chamfer it, and then make sure that you've got the right spring for the right firing pin. This is the firing pin. Let's see, where's my spring? My spring's pale white. So this was the spring that came off of this firing pin, and if you leave them cocked, they'll take a set. Or if the spring, it has too large an ID for the firing pin, when you start to compress it, if you look at this one, it'll start to coil bind, and that coil binding will take a set. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see how it's crooked. It's no longer straight. Let me show it to Erik over there.
Yeah, I see it.
So if you take this spring that came standard on that pin right there, the gauge pin on this one fits in pretty good on this side, and on this side, it doesn't even want to go in. So if I was to use this spring right here on this firing pin, I would want to put this tight end up against this boss or the shoulder on here. Otherwise, if I was to turn this around, this would be binding pretty hard on that firing pin and causing more wear here. So the one that we replaced this one with, here's a gauge pin that fits in it. It fits pretty smooth, but you can see on one side it goes in easier, and even on this one it's got a tighter end right here. So when I'm checking springs, that's why we paint them white or purple, so that we know which is that tighter end. I'll let Erik look at that. I'll show you one more thing. This spring that we're replacing that one with, this gauge pin won't even go into it. It won't even begin to go into it, but it'll slide right over the spring.
While you're at it, let me hand this to you. This is a typical Remington shroud. Just
So here's one of the reasons that we bore that out right there, that this thing just wants to drag on the inside. I mean, I can almost stand this thing vertically and it still wants to catch.
It won't come out.
Yeah, look at it.
Now put it in the other one.
We put in one of these, and you can hear there's clearance in there, and it'll just slide right out.
Yeah.
So that's the friction that we're trying to eliminate. So if you had a match gun built on a 40X or something like that,
or even a hunting rifle. I mean,
hunting rifle, that once in a lifetime.
If you have a Remington 700,
yeah.
this is recommended drastically, because more than likely they are dragging, and it's hurting your, if you're chasing your tail and your gun is just not consistent, this might be doing it.
Right.
This is one of the first things. When I went to you to learn gunsmithing, I learned about this.
This is the first thing we went over.
And this fixed, because you said, I got to teach you this before I teach you barrel chambering, because if this is not right, doesn't matter how good the barrel is, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah, when Eric's talking about we build small groups, this is an example of it right there. He's allowing almost any shooter or gunsmith to change this out on his gun really quickly and improve the accuracy. I mean, all that low development you're doing, once you change this right, the heart of the gun right there, it's just like having heart surgery right here.
So when you buy this shroud, it's going to come with obviously you get the shroud, you get a 24-pound spring, and you get a brand new rope pin.
Right.
To put in that hole.
Are you going with the a rope? Or you're going rope and not just a dowel pin?
Yeah, rope pin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot better. They stay in place a lot better.
Yeah, that's precisely why. So it's going to come with a rope pin. So it's going to be all the fixes that you need.
Yeah.
Right? And now Speedy just showed you how to prep that spring.
Right. Yeah, regardless of who's ever spring it, I would still prep them. I said,
like I said, just
you can request springs open-ended or closed-ended and ground, and that's when they grind those springs right there, that's typically when they leave that sharp edge on it, when that grinder goes across it. And I said, with this one's a Holland, and Sinclair makes these too. They're the carbide ones. You don't want to use the high-speed steels. They won't cut these springs well enough. I said, these things just cut it so easy.
Yeah. So anyway, they're on the website now. You can go to my website. They should be live now. We have them for Remington and Bergara rimfire right now. We're working on some others, but this is I've been using this on my rifles since 2012.
Well, I said
2012, and it's been a game changer. These shrouds, that's the Bordens. You don't have to do this too. The Bordens they have, if you have a Borden action, they already have all this.
Yeah, it's all done for.
But if you have anything else, especially Remington 700, my goodness, you'll be amazed at the difference. If you guys saw the Needmore series, that's one of the things. If you notice those rifles, they have a shiny shroud. That's why we did that, because you're not gonna have any consistency otherwise. Because there's so much drag, just like Speedy was showing on that factory bolt shroud. But anyway, if you do this, it's gonna more likely fix whatever issues you're having. And if it doesn't, well, at least now this is taken care of. You don't have to worry about it, because this shroud is it's got all the goodies that Speedy does. When somebody sends you a bolt to get blueprinted, that's pretty much everything you do to it.
Right, we do that to the shroud. We check the springs. If the spring that comes with the gun is serviceable, we'll use that one. And so there's a lesser charge since we're not replacing the spring. But if we do replace the spring, we go ahead and chamfer it all. We check both ends of this thing just like we did here, For those of you at home, if you're doing this on your own, you can take your firing pin and see which side has more play. I mean, you can feel this one go on a little bit snugger on this side. It's a little bit looser, so you would want this tighter side to go up against that boss right there.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's just that's something we've been working on with Speedy. It has all the Speedy goodies, all the magic.
Did you
all
want to
those
feel
shrouds.
those?
Show them the fluting, Speedy. Makes it
Yeah,
faster.
on the guns that I do, it's just I have a lot of people that say, hey, I'm buying a gun from Henry, and he says that you blueprinted the fire control on this gun, and the first thing I'll ask them, are the fire controls fluted, or is the shroud fluted? And if he says, well, no, then I have a pretty good idea that I did not work on it. So it's a little bit more effort to flute the shrouds after we do all the work to it, but it just ensures that that I was the one that worked on it. So Erik has been gracious enough since all of these have been worked on, and it was something that he and I talked about a long time. The shrouds that you buy from there, they could be two different ones. Can you get fluted and non-fluted?
Nope, they're all going to be fluted.
They're all
They all
going to
have
be
the
fluted,
goodies.
and they're going to be stainless or
Nitrite. Correct. So they're going to be fluted to indicate.
So they'll all be fluted just like this one. It just
It's
you look
like
cool.
racing stripes.
Yeah. Well, I always say if you don't shoot good, at least look good doing it. So.
Yeah, for sure.
And when your buddy has a Remington like you do, and yours is fluted, he does. Is yours fluted? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But anyway, that's what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, here's one. Mine. It's fluted. It's got all the same work done on it. You can see the notches cut. So we do exactly the same thing to whether it's a bat or if it's a Remington 700. On mine, this one's one of the older. A 1/4-inch firing pin, so you can see the tungsten weight that was added to this one right here. I was noticing, I just brought it for shits and grins. I already broke my gun. Won't be able to shoot this weekend. This is a Terminus. You can see they're built similar to the bats nowadays. They've got the roller cocking piece. They've got the square cocking piece in here as well. It's got the set screws that hold the firing pin in place. And if you look at a standard Remington firing pin, you can see how that boss is pretty small. If you look at what we did to this one right here, you'll see that they mimicked almost what we do to these. They've added more mass to the end of the firing pin itself to give you a little bit more oomph when it hits that primer. So I'm anxious to take this apart, see anything that they did to the inside. If not, this is one they'll send to me to blueprint. We'll do exactly the same work that we did to this. We'll try to minimize the friction as much as possible. But at least somebody's thinking a little bit ahead. Oh, broke it too. There it goes. See if I can get mine together this time. All happy.
All righty.
That's all I got. But like I said, I've got one more thing that Erik and I are working on. One of the things that we first check when we get a bolt is to see if it's got the correct firing pin protrusion. So I made this little gauge, and you retract the firing pin first. You put your gauge up against there. Hold that, and then you zero it. So right now I'm on 0, and then I'll drop my firing pin, and I can check it. So it's telling me that I've got about 53 thousandths of firing pin protrusion. There you go, 52 and a half, 53. but it's just a real easy way to check your firing pin protrusion. A lot of times you'll see they'll change, and like if you've been blowing primers, or you have leaky primers where a lot of that carbon and that gas starts to get back in the bolt, it'll get in between the front of this boss and the bottom of your bolt where the firing pin stops, and it'll start to cushion that. And you can see that on here. I always check it before I go to match to make sure I've got all my firing pin protrusions written down. So as I get a particular gun out, if it should be, I usually set mine around 56, 57. And that way I know I've got plenty of firing pin protrusion. But if I check it and I see that it's 51 or 49 or whatever it is, that way I can make sure to go in there and clean my bolt out, because I know that there's something in between that boss and the bottom of the hole in the bolt that keeps it from going out any further. But I think Eric's going to start making these as well.
Very soon, yes.
So you'll be able to get these things. Like I said, it's just real easy to use. You can change these contact points if you want to measure your primer pocket depth and everything. You just set it on the back of the case, zero it, and you go through all your cases real quick. So it's got several applications to it. And what are we going to call these things? Firing pin protrusion gauge? We have a cool name for it.
We'll come up with a cool name. You can't release that without a cool name.
Yeah. But that's what we're working on. The other thing that we're working on will be, I've got a specific gauge I use for all my lathes that I set my tool height with. It's something that all the people who work on a lathe will be able to use. It's real easy to set the tool height. You can set it in 30 seconds, you know.
Yep, all that's coming down the pipeline.
So anyway, we're just getting started. I'm happy to work with Erik on it. I think that, Erik is I don't know if the word's generous enough to use some of the secrets that he's using in competition and I'm using in competition and put it out there for all the shooters to have, be it a hunter, a target.
Well, the reason for that is obviously a lot of people are chasing their tail thinking, man, I can't get this rifle to shoot. Maybe I'm not a good hand loader. Maybe, you know what I mean? They'll change scopes, they'll change barrels, and they get to the point where they spend so much money on the rifle and they just finally just get frustrated.
And a lot of times
enough.
it was just this.
And a lot of times it's just the firing control, which is what I learned from you, because you taught me about action blueprinting and all that, and you said, here's the first thing we do, is the firing control. He says, if this is not right, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like nothing else will work. He goes, everybody always wants to square up the face and square up the threads and cut the lugs square and all that. He goes, but they never handle the most important part, which is the ignition portion of it. And again, that's the first thing I learned from you, and it's been working really good for me.
I'd rather have this right decade. And a good barrel and never even square up an action. You know.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Anything else?
I think that's got it.
Henry?
I think that's it. It was fun.
Good. Henry's got the bug. Do you have the BR bug, Henry? A little bit, maybe?
I think so. I think I'm with you, though. I think I want to do it to get good at F-class. But like Speedy told me about going Sunday, and I'm like, man, maybe I can make some time to go do Sunday. I'm busy. I've got commitment, but it's fun. I went into it wanting to not like it. Just get Speedy, keep Speedy happy. But I actually like it. It's fun.
Well, we're happy to have y'all.
Yeah.
And again, my condolences to the Kelby family. Anybody who knows them and doesn't know what happened, keep them in your prayers or give them a call and give them a big hug over the phone. Anyway, I'm out.
All righty. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Speedy, as always.
My
great
pleasure.
to have you. That's it. Keep them small.
That's my line.
I know, because you shoot for group. So
now what are you gonna say?